Let's Achieve Change is a podcast by Pamela Grove, Doctor of Physical Therapy, Pain and Movement Specialist of Metanoia Education and Wellness Center. I propose to be that advocacy channel, making you aware, bringing the public more information on health and wellness topics, especially as it pertains to chronic pain and disabilities. I would like to be that voice for those silent sufferers out there who are not able to speak for themselves. If you'd like to know more about Let's Achieve Change, please visit our website at changeachieve.com or pamelagrove.com. If you'd like to be a speaker or you know someone else who wants to be a speaker, also visit the website and leave your email information and we will be in touch with you as soon as possible. Let's Achieve Change will air every 2 to 3 weeks, bringing you various topics on health and wellness and making the public more aware of issues that are not being discussed. We thank you very much for tuning in. Hello, thank you for joining me today on Let's Achieve Change. I'm Pamela Grove, Doctor of Physical Therapy, Pain and Movement Specialist of Metanoia Education and Wellness Center. Listen, if you want to make some changes, you have tuned into the right podcast. Now listen, don't forget to hit that notification button so that you can subscribe and you won't miss any future episodes on some changes you might want to make. Hello there. Yes, yay. Season 3. What a lineup of guests over the next 3 to 4 months. We have guests from all walks of life and professions. I'm so excited because this is finally the time that we can dive into so many needed topics. This season will be entitled Silent Sufferers, Hidden Harms in Healthcare and Society. We will address such issues as the need for a healthcare proxy, patient advocacy, the lack of patient education, the lack of education among ancillary staff workers and professionals, mistreatment in healthcare, inadequate insurance or lack of reimbursements, professional burnout, the lack of proper plan of cares, society biases. So can any of you relate to any of these topics? Yeah, right? So, these are just a few of the issues that have led to many harms and that are resulting in suffering of millions of people silently suffering all across the globe. The season today will start off with a table talk with myself and 2 other physical therapists. Listen in. So, hello, I'm so excited to have Kristen, and Marcus here with us today. They are both therapists working in the field of physical therapy, and they've been so gracious to come on and share with us today. So I'm going to first start off and let them introduce. You don't have to give your last name, but just to give us some idea of how long you've been a therapist and what type of settings you have worked in, and we'll go from there. Okay. So who wants to start?
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kristen. I have been a therapist for just about coming up on 33 years, but 32 years.
Mm-hmm.
I started in outpatient. I've worked in several settings, including I did aquatic therapy for a few years, home care. I worked at an independent living facility.
Wow. Okay.
And now I've just recently, for the past month and a half, returned back to outpatient.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. How about you, Marcus?
All right. My name is Marcus. I've been a physical therapist for 6 years now.
Okay.
I started in pediatrics and I did that for 3 years. And I've been in just regular outpatient orthopedic for 3 years now.
Okay. So Marcus, you may not have seen the changes as much as probably Kristen. So I'm going to hit Kristen with this question, but I do want you to comment on any changes you think you have seen in the last few years that you have been practicing. So let's go with Kristen first. So Kristen, have you noticed a difference in the changes as far as what was allocated for note writing time in the earlier days? I know I can speak on a lot, but I want to get your perspective, okay? And versus the time that was allowed and even what duties were allocated to maybe other staff before. Can you speak on some of that?
Absolutely. And actually, one of the other things I just wanted to point out as the difference between my license and yours and Marcus's, I'm a PT assistant as opposed to a DPT. So even my level of documentation is much, much less than yours.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Right.
I'm going to give Marcus a chance to speak on that. because I want to bring him into the supervisory stuff as well. So
absolutely.
you go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, I remember years ago, way back when we used to write our notes by hand, but well, I was given actually documentation time to get it done during the day, as opposed to nowadays, it just seems like we have to do it on our own time during our lunch or after hours if we want to get our stuff done.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So Marcus, I know you serve as well as a supervisor. So what's your opinion on how you have to juggle the documentation, your supervisory duties, and also time allocated for treatment of patients?
So the company that I work for does what's called point of service documentation. And for people that don't know what that means, it just means at the time that the treatment is provided, we're supposed to document what's going on. So in theory, that's what we're supposed to do. But because the clinic can get busy and the profession overall can be hands-on and very involved with the patient, it doesn't always allow for that. So just like Kristen was saying, you could work through lunch if you don't want to stay after, or you can stay after, or you can come in early, or you can take work home. So I don't really think it's a great system. I understand why they do it, because they believe it's more accurate if you do the notes at the time the service was provided. But realistically, if you have to juggle between treating a patient and writing a note, it's kind of hard. It's not always going to work that way.
Yeah. So you said that you believe they do it because you said that they feel that you're being more accurate in what you're documenting if you do it at the time that you're doing it. That was how you have
the reasoning that I've been given of why they prefer that is because of that.
Okay. Kristen, is that what you've been heard? That's what you've been told?
That has been what I've been told. I also believe that it's most beneficial for them as far as monetarily. You know, they don't want to pay us for time that we're not actually bringing in any revenue.
Exactly. That's what I've been told. And I've seen the big switch over. I've been in the field for 43 years. So, and I remember when it started to change and everything was all of a sudden was called point of service. That point of service, that thought was coming out more and more. I do feel that the insurance companies do drive that a lot, Del. I don't blame the companies totally. I do blame the companies some. But the insurance companies, I have found out, especially in the last couple of years, I've dived into this a little bit more. They only pay for a certain amount of, what's the term I'm trying to use? A certain amount per patient or per time. Reimbursement. And so I think what companies have learned to do then is how can we recoup this so we get the most from the insurance reimbursement? I think that's what has really, some of the stuff that's pushed it, to be honest.
Right. I do definitely agree with the fact that, yes, of course, the accuracy is going to be there when we are with the patient. Like today, I had a very busy day. I had to finish 90% of my documentation at the end of my day and just trying to think back like, ooh, okay, did I add that for that person? Did I add it for this person? You know, so I definitely get that concept as well.
Now, can either one of you speak to the fact that have you heard patients maybe ask you or inquire, like maybe while you're doing your notes while they're there, or have a problem with that, or even spoke of any displeasure of you doing notes while they've been treated? I think you guys experienced that, not necessarily in this facility, but any other facility as well.
What I've heard from patients is that usually a patient is not going to tell you that they're not satisfied with you being in front of the computer, not in front of them. But what I've heard is that they may come from another clinic or they had therapy before, and they'll say, well, at the other clinic I was at, the therapist, like they just stayed in front of their computer the whole time.
How about
some
you?
of it, and some of it is they're documenting. Some of it is maybe the therapist just wasn't being attentive. But I think majority of the time we're in front of the screen because we have to document.
Yeah.
I also...
How many times have you heard that you have to see patients? Some places are seeing patients 4 on an hour.
Yes.
Which is unreal.
Right. Absolutely. That's, I mean...
that's unreal. And so how can you, I've actually put hands on anyone if you're doing people 4 at an hour by yourself? realistically.
Right. That would be next. There would be absolutely no quality of care there.
Yeah. Yeah. So who can tell me a little bit? Let's go with Marcus. Do you feel that we're getting good patient outcomes based on what you've seen so far?
So I think it really depends on the patient.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have a patient who's not very involved.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they're an athlete and they rolled their ankle.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of show them the exercise maybe once or twice, and they understand their body, so they can do the exercise as well. And you don't have to continue to go back to them. But then you may have an elderly patient, and you need to treat them how to do core activation exercises, which is more involved. Most people don't really know how to turn those muscles on, or even know that they have them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to treat 2 patients or 3 patients or 4 patients at a time, that may take 15, 20 minutes, and you have 2 or 3 other people twiddling their thumbs waiting on you. Or you just put them on a machine and just say, go on the bike or go on the treadmill or go do this, just to kind of buying time to get back to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So outcomes wise, we don't have any studies for it because unfortunately I don't think the profession maybe wants to study what the results of that are, but I don't think best outcome. I don't think we're going to get the best outcome like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I be honest with you, and I'm going to go out there and say it because at this point, I don't mind saying it. I've said it to other places and they don't want to hear it. They put their fingers in their ears when I do say it. I feel those outcomes are fudged a little bit. I do. I feel they are fudged to look as if they are good outcomes, to be honest with you. Because if you will actually track whether those patients are getting certain things, and if you will look back, and Marcus probably can speak to this because he and I talked about this the other day. Look at how many people said that they have been to other facilities. They've had certain diagnoses, and not on 1 month, 3 months, but for months and years. And they only got certain type of whatever. Okay. And then here they are back and they're having problems. So is that a good outcome? Was that a good outcome? Okay. So I would beg to differ and say, okay, I would have liked to have seen that outcome from that facility when that patient was seen 6 months ago, a year ago, or whatever. Okay. Because if that was a good outcome, why are we seeing now?
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So that would be my question. But like Marcus said, you don't think that that's going to even be that's going to be touched at all,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not trying to make this a session that we're just really getting bummed out, but just trying to get patients to understand and even public to understand what is happening, why they may not be seen or getting the results they're not getting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know what the solutions are. Do you guys have any type of solutions that you have thought of or?
Well, I think to say the solution, we have to discuss what is the real issue.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the real issue is as physical therapists, we rely on insurance to pay us, to reimburse us.
Mm-hmm.
And if those payments go down, and we work for companies that also want to make a profit, the only way to continue is for us to see more at a time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that creates the issue where what we're talking about, you're seeing 2, 3, 4 at a time, which is probably not going to get the best outcome. So for me, the solution is we need to apply more resistance to the insurance companies to see if we can limit at least no more decreases in payment.
That's a very good point. I wish that could be something that could be rallied on because I think that's probably going to be the way to hit it, since they are the reimbursement mediums out there. So,
right.
Because patients end up paying out their pocket when they go somewhere privately to get better outcomes. And I know that personally because I have people come to see me.
That's another solution is we just don't rely on primarily insurance anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If we have good outcomes, we should be able to ask a patient to pay out of pocket. And if they deem it's valuable, they'll pay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pay a personal trainer $100 an hour.
Yeah.
If it thinks get results.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. I was just thinking one of the other challenges that maybe the patients may not be aware of is that we, as the therapists, don't have the control of our schedule and who is scheduled with their say, our counterpart. I had a patient just yesterday say, oh, do you guys schedule like shoulder patients together? And I said, no, that just you and so, that just happened to be the luck of the draw today.
Yeah.
But you just never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So what do we do with these patients who are chronic pain patients who need more education and who need one-on-one? I mean, how do you guys feel how do you feel as if you're done with those patients? Because those are the ones that I get to see the most through my doors who confront about the bad outcomes over the years. So
right.
What has been your experience with dealing with chronic pain patients, or those who have been like some of the elderly patients who have had certain disabilities for a while and they still have not gotten back to maybe a pre-morbid state? What has been your experience or your success rate with some of these patients?
Right now, I would say just with my recently transitioning back to outpatient, my most recent job prior to this was working in an independent living facility. So it was the residents and the patients that lived there in that building. So at least from that aspect, I get to see them in their home environment. So if they were having specific difficulties like getting from their apartment to the dining room, that's something very specific that we can work toward because we're in that environment.
Yes.
Whereas outpatient, it's a lot harder to maneuver and say, just today, I was trying to work with a patient that is having pain with a very specific task and to try to simulate that. To make sure that, okay, your core is stable and you're maintaining your good posture and working through it so you don't keep re-injuring.
Right.
Sometimes that can just be a real challenge to kind of go down that road of, okay, this is your path to help.
So then what do we do? What's to be done?
I wish I knew.
Because I'm quite sure today I spent with one person, her treatment was supposed to be an hour. I think I spent at least 45 minutes going over. She came in very frustrated because she felt as if she wasn't getting any better. I had to try, and she had been into another facility. She had papers for another facility. She had been here a few times. And I had to go down and try to revamp everything that she's done for the past 2 weeks. It was about 45 minutes. Now, normally, no therapist would do that.
Yeah. I ain't got time for this.
But I think she left as a happy trooper. Because now she has a better idea of what she's doing wrong and maybe what she can go from here. But how many times has someone come in like that and you don't have time to do that?
Right.
You don't have the time to do that. You really don't. Because of your documentation demands or because of the other patient you have to work with. Okay.
Right.
And what do? Okay, well, you shrug your shoulders, right?
Yeah.
Right. And okay, you go on the machine, do whatever, and give them a half excuse or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Marcus, you want to chime in a little bit on any thoughts on that or what? Anything about that?
I think the solution to a chronic pain patient is the education. So kind of tempering expectations, because a lot of times they'll come in and they'll think, I've been here 2 times. Well, I'm not better. What's going on? And the reality of how chronic pain works is if it took you've been like this for 3 years or whatever it is, 2 sessions is not going to be enough.
Right.
So I think some of that is important. Part of it is just being good PT. Just what are your goals? What do you have difficulty with at home? Anything that we can help as far as that goes. It's tough. I don't think there's really a good answer for chronic pain. I think it's more maybe like a teamwork approach where we probably need to have better communication with their doctors as far as what medications they're on.
Yeah.
As far as what their diagnosis is. If it's a patient that's had a prior stroke, they may think, well, I'm going to get back to hiking or something, and they can't even balance on their own. So kind of those discussions, everyone getting together to inform the patient, but I don't think there's a good answer for a chronic. I think maybe for chronic pain would be, we should have like a special, like if you're a physical therapist, you specialize in chronic pain and the clinics recognize that, the insurances recognize that, and just pay accordingly for it. Because we could treat it, but you have to spend time with those patients.
And that is what I think is a big part of it right there. I'm glad you said it. I didn't want to say it because it now sounds biased. The education component, but who will rally that? The challenge should put that in every facility, or someone who's allocated, who has a specialty in that area, can take time. I remember years and years and years ago, I'm really dating myself, I'm back to the 80s now. And I worked with a renowned acupuncturist. That's what got me on my journey with chronic pain. Saw people from all over the world. And there was different people. There were psychologists on team. There's all these different people on team. So there was time allocated for education. And that was way back in the 80s. He was very above his, beyond his time. Okay. And so that's something that, I wish that would be something that would happen because that's what's needed. These patients, when they go to the supposedly the pain specialist, that's a joke. Ask them sometimes what they actually do for them.
They end up giving them medication.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not education.
Right.
It's education component.
Mm-hmm.
So
if I can, touch on the other part that Marcus had said with the team approach, that is definitely something else that I do appreciate about outpatient, having just come back into it, that I get to see that, again, me being a PT assistant, that we all get to work together. So when the patient comes in the door and they see the PT for the first eval, and then they'll come in the next time and they might be scheduled with me and they kind of look at me like, ooh, you're not who I saw the first time.
Yeah.
But the great thing is not all of us are going to look at things the same exact way. We all have our own methods, but we're all working toward the same goal. So I like the fact that we can bounce ideas off of each other, and especially if we are challenged by a particular case. You know, hey, Pam, can you help me with this one? I'm really stuck with this. And I like that.
And on that note, the facility, I'm not going to speak to the facility, but that is something that's very special about that facility, okay, that you're speaking about, okay? That doesn't happen at most facilities. Believe me, I've been to several, okay?
Right.
And as a matter of fact, years and years ago, I'm dating myself again. See, all these things that used to happen, I think they were good things and they don't happen anymore. There was times for the team to have chart reviews. We sat down together. And we talked about patients, okay? And we shared about information about patients. It was done. And that's another thing. I don't remember when it went out, the water went out, but it went out.
Yep.
And so how can there be a team approach if it's no time for discussion? I remember being at my last facility and I asked that question. I goes, when do you guys ever discuss my patients? And then the person said to me, we just do it across the floor. Okay. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting.
Right.
But
I will say, I think one place that does this well is probably the hospital. Because in order to discharge a patient, the therapist has to get together with the nurse, with the attending doctor, and they have to discuss how the patient is doing.
And they don't even do it well anymore.
Okay.
They don't. I worked for an acute care facility back in 2012 to 2013. That was the first time I went back to acute care since, for probably 30 years. And I was very surprised. It's not even done well in the hospital anymore. And this was a major place in Charlotte. Okay. So it's very quick. And the reason for that is because they're supposed to be in and out so quickly. They're in and out so fast. So it's like a quick little scribble you write, tell whatever, text, whatever, and you read this paper. That's it. That's how fast it's done these days. And I'm quite sure it's got even worse since then. That was 2012. So yeah. And I don't want us to, but I just want us to get some of this stuff out here because I think patients need to understand. I think they need to become better educated of what to ask, maybe their doctors. Marcus made that comment about us having discussions with doctors. When is that going to happen? When are we going to actually discuss things with doctors? That's funny. That's a joke right there. So, and when you come over with information from the doctor, lots of times it's not even very, it's not very thorough. So it's going to be a conversation with the doctor about any more information that most of the time they don't even get the information either. So I think the key is going to be educating the patient, to be honest with you, and educating the public. So they're aware of what their rights are and what they can start to inquire about. Because they really have the right when they go in to see the doctor and they go and see, when they have the right to talk to their insurance companies. They have more right than anybody, to be honest with you. But they're not educated about these rights, right? So anybody want to give us any more comments or thoughts or more conversation for next time, or don't want us to run out of time? So what are the things we want to kind of bring out?
There was something else that Marcus and I were chatting about real quick yesterday was some improvements in the documentation system.
Mm-hmm.
If there were something, which apparently there is something out there that will, I'm sure, come across at some point, but like more of a dictation.
Mm-hmm.
So where we can actually still keep our hands free to work on the patient or to help them with their balance while getting our documentation done, point of service, without needing to type stuff in constantly. So that would be a help.
Yeah, that will help. I mean, like I said, I work with another group, and then I was telling Marcus about that. I do my documentation through my phone, and I can use that part of it if I wanted to. Yeah, so
the system that the technology is out, but it's so new that I guess companies are just now getting onto it.
Right.
But I want us to imagine you go to your doctor, you're having a conversation with your doctor. They're looking you in your eye. You tell them your knee hurts. They look at your knee, they touch your knee, they move your knee, they ask you when did it hurt and all these things. And they're not staring in front of their computer, or they're not going back to their computer. You feel like they're paying attention to you. And I feel like a lot of times with patients, that simple gesture, that's the buy-in.
That's the buy-in.
Yes.
That's the buy-in.
They care about what's going on. They care about me. Then they'll take their medication if that's the case. Or if we give them exercises, they'll follow through on the exercises.
Yeah, I agree.
That is a technology thing that can kind of push against some of what we're dealing with as far as seeing more and more patients in a day. With there's only 8 hours or 10 hours, whatever your shift is, and they want us to squeeze more patients. I think that's one way to mitigate that, but I don't think that's the real solution. Is we just have to limit how many patients we see in a day.
Yeah, I think that's still going to be the bottom line. I really do.
Quality over quantity.
Because you could be the best therapist in the world, but if you've seen 20 patients and it's 5 o'clock and you're on your last 2 patients,
it's burnout.
I don't care how good you are, that patient, they're not going to get the best care that they need to get.
Yeah. And it's burnout. It's burnout. You can only give but so much of you. And if this is happening every day, time after time, it's burnout. Really is burnout. Yeah. So, well, do we need to do another one, or do we think we cover everything we need to cover, or there's other topics you want to bring up later? We can come back. This probably will not air for another month or so anyway, because I'm doing the caregivers for the next few weeks. But if you think, guys, and you think of anything else, but I think this was a good start.
Yes.
Some solutions, we've talked about it. Some of it is the technology. Some of it is
education, the patient.
Education of the patient. Some of it is pushing back on the
insurance. Insurance.
I think some of it is maybe we can, I don't know how we can do this, but a lot of times we'll get a patient, and at least for me, I know I'll get a patient. This is their first visit. All the doctor sent over was they have shoulder pain.
Yeah.
They come in, and if they had a surgery,
it's
like, how am I supposed to know? Like, how am I supposed to know that?
Right.
I think some of it is standard of communication. Like maybe there's some kind of form that we can create where if you're sending a patient over to a therapist, or your therapist sending a patient to refer someone, there's this 1-page form. All this information needs to be on it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Right.
That sounds like a real good idea.
Yeah, because even still, you ask the patient, well, what surgery did you have done?
And they don't know.
I don't know.
They don't know.
That's probably the greatest disservice. Because if you're a doctor and you performed a repair on a shoulder, and the patient doesn't know what's going on, what's stopping them from going to grab a gallon of milk and then messing that up?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And the front offices can take care of that, I think that's something the front offices can be trained to make sure they get that paperwork as well. So, yeah, that's another good point. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up. I'm glad that you guys definitely came on, and I'm glad that we're starting to talk about some of these things. I want the public to start to hear some of these things, and they'll start to be like, wow, yeah, okay, now, yeah. And I really think it's going to make a difference. I don't know when, don't know how. I'm just putting this out here. I'm just going to keep putting stuff out there as much as I can. So I really appreciate you coming on, and please let me know if there's anything else you want to get together with at a later date. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have a good evening. Okay. Okay.
Thanks so much. All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. I truly thank Marcus and Kristen for their candor, their ability to come on and be vulnerable and honest, and for their time. I feel that there's so much more to discuss and so much more action to be taken to evoke some changes. But yes, this is a start. The discussions are being had. And so I'm excited about that. Continue to tune in to so many other issues that will be addressed over the next several months. And remember, if you want your story heard, or you have someone out there who you want to be a guest, or you even have a topic that you want to be discussed, please go to our website. There is an information form for you to fill out. Our website is PamelaGrove.com or ChangeAchieve.com. And you know what? I will talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning in today at Let's Achieve Change. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You will find out more about Metanoia Education and Wellness Center on our website at ChangeAchieve.com. We welcome your questions and your feedback. Please feel free to fill out the form on the website and we will contact you directly. I pray that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. Remember, it's all about the change. Thank you.